So, Mr. Fermi, we had 1 minute to share a big lesson that would leave an impact to the listener. What would you say?
60 seconds. I would say that wherever you are is where you're at least meant to be for now, even though you think you're going to be more than that, or you're meant to be more than that. But you should use it as a springboard to wherever you're going. Never make the mistake that life is done because of anything that has happened in the past. And I think it's one of the biggest life impacts, that you can be more than what you are if you want to become more than what you currently are.
That was deep. Now I feel like we can just end the podcast. But yeah, though, where you say we can be more, I think sometimes people get scared of testing, of trying things out. You know, when there was a point where you were an HR, there was a point where you were just a spiritual leader who loves to read books. Then now you are a data person, and then you do geoscience. So when people are not in, so many people get scared of wanting to try things out. So what would you...
I think one of the dilemma of having to do a lot of things is structure. And because you can do this, you can do that, you're tempted to do everything together. And then there is this saying that a jack of all trade, master of none, and all of that. And to be honest, it's true to a certain extent. And but going back to my own early days, to be I was HR, this one, that one. I think that the point is that you want to keep doing whatever you're doing. And one thing that has always rang in my head was a question that a particular child asked his dad. I think the child was studying musical engineering. I think the guy was in his fourth year, I think final year essentially. And he asked his dad that suddenly, if I do not want to do musical engineering again, what am I going to do with my life? And the man said, at least you're doing musical engineering, don't worry. It will be the thing that leads to the thing. So the point was always that whatever you're doing, it's not assumed to be your bus stop. You have the capacity to still want to aspire for more, to want to consistently do. So at the time when I was doing HR, I thought it was the zenith of whatever I was going to be doing. And then my mind was just limited to that, which in itself is good because you tend to focus all your attention on it. You consume books on it. You watch people who have been very, very good at it and all of that. But there is a way life presents its opportunities when I think in the infinite wisdom of the Lord, there is a way life presents its opportunities that you just know that it's time to step into the next phase, then the next phase, then the next phase. It doesn't have to be mystical like people have made it, right? You're going to be entering this season and then you're going to seek some kinds of things in your sleep. It's as good as being it's as good as doing self-introspection. I mean, it's as simple as that. I think that's the word. Because, I was an HR, we did HR for a while. I absolutely loved everything that has to be, that connected with doing it. But the opportunity presented itself for me to go to service. And then I went to service, and as God will have it, I landed in a tech firm in service. So when I landed in a tech firm, I was going to say, okay, do I want to redeploy from a tech firm to be looking for HR firm around? And to be honest, I just took it within me to say that I'm just going to take this as a challenge. Right then and there. And then the whole tech thing started, even though I'd been doing a little bit in school, but not so much really. And then started learning this, learning that. And I think for me, it was that whenever I want to learn, it's always like on beast mode. Right? Just sit with the whole thing. I think I was learning JavaScript at the time, which was when I started learning core programming. So yeah, I learned that, and then I went for masters, and then in masters I was like, okay, if I have one opportunity to do something that was absolutely going to take all my time, what am I going to do? Okay, I came to study remote sensing and geosciences. Let me just focus on that, and Python is the language for that then. I picked Python with some crazy schedules because I had the time then. It was in the middle of strike, so there was strike for a very long time. So during those periods, it was that I didn't have anything that was engaging my time that much, except the side gigs I was doing here and there. And then I just like deployed every of my capacity towards it. And I learned something that we could absolutely do so much in a day than you can in a week, just by the difference of focus. Right? Because I and my friend then, because we were left with nothing in this life, we just had to throw ourselves to everything we had. And then we had this thing to say, okay, we're going to do 600 minutes today without interruption. Without
600 minutes.
Yeah, the 600 minutes should be 6 hours. 60 minutes make 1 hour.
That should be
10 hours rather.
10 hours.
Yeah. So it's one of the things we did. So without interruption. So you have breaks in the middle, and then
Pomodoro.
Yeah, the Pomodoro technique, exactly. I think the app we were using was Focus Meter, and then what we were doing in a day, we were shocked because we've not done it in a month. What we're doing in a day. So anybody tells me 1 month is small, I just say, yeah, the way you look at it.
How are you using the Pomodoro? Because how are you able to do 10 hours of focus?
I think when you're left with no option, you just do what it takes you to survive legally. And when you look at your future, it's in front of you. You know, there is this saying that you create the future you want from today, you design it, blah, blah, blah. So I looked at my own future. It looks blurry at the time.
It looks blurry. You had to make it clear.
I had to say, see, man, what am I going to even do in my life after this whole thing, right? I already had some skills then, but now it wasn't going to deliver the future I wanted, right? So I was like, okay, so we first read this book, 5 a.m. Club. That was where the whole madness started from, right? 5 a.m. Club, so we have to be waking up 5. First things first, wake up 5, right? And then I woke up 5, you pray, and then there was this, because we lived in school at the time, there was this jogging we're going to do around the hostel, and then when we returned back, it was a hey man, going to my room, he's going to his room. Everybody go start. So I go, I shower, and then face my system. The room is still dark, maybe around 5:45 a.m. then. It was still secured in school. I'd be still secured in school at the time. So I just start. I think, I can't remember it schedule for schedule now, but I think the first 3 hours, there is no interruptions, nothing. You're just with the Python and the book and YouTube, everything that is aiding you to learn. You're not doing anything external. Yes, you're not doing anything external. And then after then, I was going to probably start cooking or something. I mean, I'll eat because the thing is mentally intensive. And then after then, take some nap and then start again, maybe for another 3 hours or something. Right? Because you just set it. You see the thing rolling. Then the idea of what you're trying to create is very alive. I think that's where vision can actually be the fuel of the human existence, right? What you want to create is alive. Say, after this is what I want to become. I had a vivid expectation of what the result should be like. So then I take that, we rest, and then I think around that time, it's getting to like 1 p.m. now. It's not even evening yet. So there is still like a lot of time in front before, let's say, 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. like that. So, and then you rest again, you stretch, and then you probably, if I want to move out of my room, most of the time I'm usually indoors all through. So then you stretch and then you come again, maybe for some 2 hours because your energy is already going down, to be very honest. And some 2 hours, and then after then we catch up, we go for a walk. And just look at nature because it was school. There is still nature everywhere. It's not
trees.
Trees and all of that. You talk to yourself. Say, come on, future is there. You're talking about everything. Just giving yourself emotional support. Really. And then when you come, when I come like that, I think we go to his house. My friend said we play PES. I mean, we have to blow steam now. This thing is hard. We play PES, then I come back, probably do some 1 hour or 2 hours again, and then the time is clicked for the day, right? And then there are some times really that after that you sleep, still go to night classes.
Yeah. So how many hours of sleep were you getting?
I mean, to be very honest, when I have to wake up 5, I try to sleep 10 p.m.
Okay.
10 p.m. through 5. So that's like 7 hours, which is the standard.
Yeah.
But the days you go to night class, you spend about 3 hours or 2 3 hours in night class. That's not full concentration. Because I still whine people in night class, I still laugh and all of that, right? It's not full concentration, but then you just go to relieve some things and all of that, and then you come home, you sleep, when you wake up. So it's not like some long time, but maybe now the hours of sleep is cut. But the thing is, when you're taking a nap, you can take a nap for like 1 hour. Probably if you go to night class and you still meet the required time, because there's just so much
time because you're not distracted.
Yes, like there's just so much that 24 hours can give to you. You can even decide not to sleep 10, you can decide to sleep 12 to 5, which is normal for a normal Lagosian. Which is normal, right? So I mean, there is so much it can like give to you, and if you remove, let's say, 6 hours from 24, you have a team. You can literally play with 8. I still do something with the 10. So yeah, that's like how the schedule looks like.
So let's talk about your journey to KPMG. How did you get to KPMG? How did your journey start? How did your journey at KPMG begin?
I went for masters, right? And then it was masters. I started learning data, machine learning, and all of those things. So I really wanted to get a role in a very good organization before finishing masters, because I tell my friends, people will still make excuses for you when you just finish undergraduate.
Yeah.
Nobody's making that excuse for you when you're done with postgraduate. Because you're expected to have sense. I mean, how do you graduate research? And one of the ways by which you have sense is that you're doing something really, really okay. So I was always telling them that, please, once it's research phase, let's try push something and all of that. So that was what I was always talking about, and then it was my goal really. So when I started out, I think on one day like that, when I was talking to the Lord, he was telling me I was going to get 3 offers.
Okay.
But I didn't know where the offers were going to come from. Because at the time, to be very honest, I didn't even know KPMG recruits every year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not like I've been targeting them and all of these things. In fact, before then I was building a startup we got funding, but unfortunately. So that was like my focus when I was even doing masters, and the learning thing, of course. Those were the things I was giving myself to. So it's not like I was researching, okay, I wanted this kind of fame and all of this one. But so when that thought actually came, because my startup, of course, it wasn't going to feed me as we thought. So I had to like re-strategize and say, okay, I'm just going to put in for job offers and all of that, especially graduate trainees and all of that. So I started joining groups and all of that. Then people started talking. And I think one of the first things I heard on the group was somebody that had done 40 assessments and had not gotten into one.
40?
40.
Wow.
40.
That's 40 rejections.
40 rejections. And the year was not done.
Ew.
So I was like, I'm just starting.
Where do you want to start your rejection from?
40. I won't mention his nickname one day because I know his name, because I still chatted with him. Like, bro, are you holding up? Are you okay?
40, that's a lot.
And then one of those days when I was trying to push in, because for me it was numbers game, right? Pushing for this, push for this, push for this. It was just one of those days the Holy Ghost told me I was going to get like 3. I was like, 3? Okay. Let's see. I think I mentioned it with my friend or something. Or we didn't. I can't remember now. So I applied to quite a number of places, and then KPMG came through. But I got to the final part where I was going to have the final interview. Then I had very cold feet. Because it was KPMG. They had told me how big KPMG was. They had mentioned this. They had mentioned that it was a global firm. Once you enter, it's like, I was like, God. And then, to be very honest, all of us question ourselves the second time, even though you are very capable for the stuff. And then I was like, am I going to get this done? But I had a friend inside of KPMG to say, see, I believe you. If the only problem why you might not enter was you not passing the assessment, but if you pass the assessment, you are going to enter. He told me from day one, and then his words started playing in my head again. So I was just like, see, and then the point was, as at the time when I wanted to have the last interview, I had 2 offers waiting. I had started with one. In fact, those ones told me that, because I told them I can't be physically present. They said,
no problem,
I should finish masters first or something, and then I can come join them. So they weren't stressing me at all, right?
Yeah.
The second one was also one, it was a multinational too.
Okay.
I was there, was good, but I wanted KPMG, and this was the last guy. I see, even in KPMG doesn't come. But I really wanted KPMG to come, because of the training, the culture and all of that, right? So yeah, then I did the last interview. And then when we're finishing the last interview, I asked my interviewer, and the question I asked him was this. I said, if you were me, what advice would you give me? And he said, I would advise myself to keep doing what you're doing. And then I knew I got into KPMG. With the way he answered, to say that, keep doing what you're doing and all of that. So I started packing my bags for KPMG, because this is the third one. I mean, the word of the Lord should not fall to the ground. Yeah. Right? So and then KPMG came, and then, yeah, that became a very wonderful experience, and I had to manage it with masters.
But if you were to give anybody who is working in the corporate world maybe a piece of advice on how to continue working in their space, to be more efficient in their space, how would you say that people can be more efficient in the corporate space?
Have a very clear direction. Know what you want. I don't know if I should say be selfish with your career.
What do you mean by be selfish with your career?
You are the only one that knows where you want to be in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Your neighbor doesn't know. Your boss don't know. The person below you do not know. Have it as your vision and let that drive your output at work. Yeah. That's what I would always say. And when you have a clear expectation of where you want to be, it informs how you work now, the people you have alliances with, the people you prioritize, the kinds of relationships you build. It just gives you that long-term thinking in your frame of mind. So you know this person is very, very important, something like this. And yeah, that's what I'd advise.
So what if people find themselves working in quote toxic team members? How should they handle it?
No, when you talk about toxic team members, they are very custom. Like every toxic person has a specific trait that you might not even find in the next toxic person. Right? And so it's very hard to deal with on a general scope, because toxic people are just toxic people. But one thing for me really is if you find yourself with toxic people or a toxic team and the firm is not doing anything about it, I think you should plan your escape route. But have a lot of money that you'll be spending when you're jobless. Because I imagine that when people are emotionally stressed, it cuts through every aspect of their existence.
Lives, yeah.
They start getting cranky with loved ones. They start doing like this to kids. They start doing like this to friends. And the solution is not them. So do you want to sacrifice something by ruining every other relationships you have? So that's, for me, really, I think that's how I'm going to like deal with toxicity. Of course, it's been happening. Then you just want to maybe start looking for other options, because you know what, should somebody be maltreated because you're working somewhere?
Yeah.
You know what? So that's what I'd say, really.
I've told you before, you're one of the people who makes Christianity sweet. You know how people can live their lives. People can wear round neck and cargo pants and palm, and you're not feeling like you're righteous because you're doing that. You are able to be you and to still be Christ-like. And I look at you and I'm wondering, so what has formed your mentality? What has formed you to be you, the kind of man that you are?
I think first of all, I'm a very conservative person, and I remembered when I started dressing like this, people were talking like you were talking to say, that's nice. I mean, especially this ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be very honest, I think that the greatest dilemma of a man would be to remain wherever you were born. With the ideologies you were born with the full culture you were raised with, and you are not intentional about aspiring for more. Again, you can always be more, irrespective of what has been. We do great things from small places. It doesn't mean you don't start from a small place.
Sure.
It's always that, yeah. And so, but when eventually you mention Christ, like what does it mean in itself? Does it mean kaftan and cap? Does it mean what other good clothes do we wear? Ankara, and I mean, what does Christ like means, right? And I attend a very conservative church, an Orthodox church, Baptist, right? And so it's not even that I'm joining Pentecostal or something. That's why I started dressing like this, because I mean, in that setting, this is still very much accepted. In my setting, most of us were kaftan to church and all of those things. But the point is, when Christ like starts becoming wearing cargo, not dressing now, wearing cargo around neck, and you're starting to say that I'm not Christ-like enough, then there is a problem with being Christ-like, because what you're essentially saying was that when Christ came, it was specific kinds of clothes. And here we are not talking about a decent dressing, we're just talking about the type of clothes. And then, but when you eventually go on and then we start reading the scriptures, and the Bible was saying that certain things, it was Apostle Paul, it was saying that there are certain things I do, not because they are sin or they are not sin. It is just that I do not want the other person to stumble.
Sin, yeah.
And then we start taking our prerogative of dressing from there. So for me, really, because of the kind of church I come from, I wouldn't wear earring, right? Not because it's not Christ-like, but because if I get to church tomorrow, the boys that have looked at me as a mentor starts wearing earring, and at that setting, the hearing there in the setting is still not widely accepted.
Yeah.
So them wearing earring is not the problem, but the problem was that they learned wearing earrings from me,
Yeah.
and they are not going to be wearing earrings for just the fashion part, because what forms the basis of the whole hearing in it was like the trouser thing. You are sinning against God when you are wearing trouser. When we were starting out,
Yeah.
it was and then people started wearing trousers. Oh, suddenly it looks cool.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, but anyone wearing, there were people also at the time that were wearing trousers to spite their parents, because they have told them never to wear trousers. Now that is where the problem comes in. The problem was never the trouser, it was the motive behind it. It would also be the same as other persons wearing earrings. So the problem has never been me wearing earrings or not, even though it's not like part of my own accessories, but it's about the motive behind it. So again, it boils down to, you are Christ-like. What does it mean? How do you treat you? How do you treat your neighbor? I said, how do you treat you deliberately? How do you treat yourself? How do you treat your neighbors? When Christ was here, what was the preaching of Christ to everybody? Now, when we come to dressing, are you dressing indecently? That's Christ-like, because when you're dressing indecently, you're probably going to cause some other person to fall.
Yeah.
Right? So those are the questions around dressing and all of this and all of that. And again, for me, it's just to be balanced. Right? There is the Bible says that the Spirit of the Lord bears witness with your spirit, because you're sons of God. I think that if I'm doing something and it's going to be against what the Lord wants, there is that consciousness of saying, do you really want to do this? Do you really want to do this? Right? It doesn't have to be sin. The Holy Spirit convicts of sin. He also convicts you of things that you should not do, even though it is sin, or it is not sin. And that's his function. I think the whole of John was explaining that to us. So if I put on a big trouser today, there was a time when if you wear big trouser, people will laugh at you.
Yeah, but now it's fashion.
But now it's fashion. Is it Christ-like? Is it not Christ-like? So I think the question around Christ-like revolves more with you following the real tenets of the scriptures. I mean, what the Lord was speaking to us, all his sermons on the mount, all of those things. I mean, those are the things for me. So if I treat you very bad, then okay, is this guy even Christ-like? If I'm doing something to usurp someone from a position, is this really Christ-like? But come on, round neck, I'll still buy more.
And you know, when you were speaking, what comes to mind is the fact that nowadays I think that it's more difficult. It's becoming more difficult to work with Christians than unbelievers. Do you agree?
I do not agree. And the reason I do not agree is that the definition of Christianity has to come, and because it is already general, on that basis it becomes very hard. So Michael, the guy that walks on the street, is a Christian because he goes to church. The guy that steals on the street, rather, but his name is Michael, he's a Christian. Bartholomew.
You're calling really biblical names.
Biblical names, Hebrew names. Whatever he does, he reports to church on a Sunday. Isaiah, Jeremiah, they report to church on a Sunday. But when the apostles saw, when the people saw the disciples of Jesus, they called them little Christ, right? At the church in Antioch, because they were behaving like Christ.
Yeah.
So the essence of a Christian, either you mark your Sunday attendance or you do not mark it, is your relationship with the Lord. But I cannot know. Which is why the definition of Christianity has to be broad. There has to be this widely accepted definition of a Christian, right? But if we now come to the point to say that he's behaving like Christ, he's not behaving like Christ, then the dichotomy really becomes very, very wide. To say, okay, this person is acting like Christ. But again, what's the benchmark? Because who is the person
that we are using as this
that determines who is acting like Christ or not? You get, that's why the whole thing is this. But when you say normally people want to do things with with unbelievers rather than Christians on a very general scope, we can have a discussion on that. To say that many people just go to church and then mask Christianity and religion.
I think that's the thing, because most times people would say, one of my sisters, there was a particular team she was working with, and their lead there in that team was supposedly a pastor in her church, right? But you see, that woman who was somewhat a pastor in her church was the terror in her team. So everybody did not like her. Now we see Christians who would be employed in different, don't let them generalize it, because then me too, I'm also a Christian. But somehow it looks like some Christians, let me use the word some Christians, some Christians have now begun to use the canopy of, oh, I'm a Christian. They get into places and then misbehave. They get into places and then forget the place of integrity. They get into places and then forget the place of actually putting in the work, and not just depending on the fact that, yes, grace has made a way for you, but you need to still put in the work to keep the space that grace has made for you. So when people are speaking about how, as Christians, I believe that we should be one of the most excellent people, not because it is ordained, but because we know that we are representing Christ, and Christ is a man of excellence. So we should be one of the most excellent people. Maybe not perfect, but at least excellent in whatever it is that we do. But we find Christians who are now camouflaging as Christians, but when it's time to put in the work, they lack integrity, they lack the Christ-likeness, which is acting in, just like the basic things of just acting in love with one another. That thing sometimes can be missing in fellow Christians. And they are usually people who are dealing with unbelievers, and then you're like, you are the face of Christ. You should not misrepresent Christ. You should not make people say, that's why I don't like Christians. It should never happen. That's why I don't like working with Christians. It should never happen. Right? So I've seen that. But I don't think you've seen it.
I've seen it. I think we all have our share because it's the society. I heard the word religion is the opium of the masses, first of all, from my dad. And he's one of the greatest believers I've come to know. Now, when I started growing, there was an incident that happened. I think we watched one episode like that on Sundays, and then this man was contributing from the Ifa perspective.
Okay.
So that time I was already in school. Spirit Coco. So I said I wasn't watching. And my dad told me to sit down and finish watching this stuff.
Yeah.
And then my dad said, you learn from everything. You do not have to take everything in, but you learn from everything. Provided it's part of the walk of life. Provided it's part of life, you can learn from it and all of that. Now, moving on to say that I think for myself now, and then you see how people weaponize and manipulate people, all in the name of religion. Things I've witnessed and seen. I don't know where to place them, and it's just to say that the human mind is so effortlessly interesting that when it wants something, it can get it through any means. When that means become using religion, the human mind has the perfect way to craft it to enable it deliver its goal.
Yeah.
When you say you're a Christian in Africa, people naturally have a soft spot towards you.
Because
especially a fellow Christian.
Yeah.
There was a time I wanted to be duped, and the guy told me that I was a redeemed member.
You wanted to be duped?
Yeah, he wanted to dupe me.
Okay.
And then the guy told me he was a redeemed member. And then because he was I was just talking and all of that. Before my brain came alive.
Oh God.
Right? And so it's a tool of manipulation. And it's always been in existence. It's just that a lot of people are clocking in now, and then because Christians are commanded to be this, to be good.
Yeah.
When they slap you here, you turn this and all of that and all of that. And then people are trying to be childlike, but then there are people who will always prey on that. And then what that has caused is, number one, the society is weary of you, first of all, as a Christian.
Yeah.
And number two is that everyone is doing business on a very not platonic now, on a very
should I say discreet?
yes, like it's just the same. Yeah. I'm not giving anyone benefit of doubt because of this. I would monitor you like I'll monitor the other guy on the other street. I do not care who you are. Either you're a general overseer or you're this, and it's ruining the rep.
Yes, it is. It's
ruining the rep. So you being a Christian is just your business now. So, and what we do not know is that has the capacity in itself to start making people reconsider their salvation in the first instance. So you're a pastor, you're leading a church of 7,000 members, they catch you that you're fornicating. You're a pastor, you're leading a church of this, you're caught in online scam. You're a pastor, you're getting all of this, or you're doing all of this, people really love you, and at the end of the day, they, for one reason or the other, they just saw that you've been manipulating them. And don't forget, we're discussing how that manipulation is still manipulation when the other person has not clocked that it is manipulation. The moment the other person clocks that it is manipulation, it turns 360 degrees and it becomes resentment towards the person manipulating them.
Yeah.
And so people let out all angers, and then suddenly there is no good church in the country again. Suddenly the African church is the most terrible thing. But is it? It's not. The pastors probably doing that, or the people probably doing that, they're a tiny part of the population. 100. The church I come from, you have a lot of churches in the village where the pastors do not even receive up to 20,000 naira per month or wherever, and they are doing the work of God with the all of their heart. You give them money, they say no, the church needs it. I've witnessed it times and time again. But of course, the media is usually fixated on the current thing happening, the one that's going to take the most media coverage and all of that. So I mean, whoever is probably doing that should just, it's just the wrath of the Lord. And people have even got into a place where they believe that there is nothing like the wrath of the Lord again. Because I mean, why is this person doing like this? He's still living very fine, he's still doing this. Valid questions, if you ask me. Very valid questions I'm going to ask. I mean, you're trying to pay. I mean, this person is doing very bad. Person should just die next tomorrow.
I think that's where the messages of the Lord come.
That's where the messages of the Lord come in again. So I mean, it's just very valid that these discussions are being considered, to be very honest.
Yeah. So as Christians now, how do we now ensure? But how do we continue to? So people who have already been swayed, how do we then win these people back? Because there are people who have decided that they are no longer doing church, they are no longer doing God because of how another Christian mistreats them. So how then do we bring people back?
I have quite a number, and I do not try to persuade them to follow me to church on Sundays. The first place to start, because the way the human mind concerning stubbornness works is that you tell me not to do something, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So I told you I'm not coming to church. I tell you to come to church. I will show you. I will show you.
Yeah.
So the first thing, I don't call your names. Hey, let's go to church. The only people I do that to, they are my friends that I know they go to church, but they are very lazy to go to church on the Sundays. They are like, we are going to church today, something like that. But I mean, we have very, very wonderful discussions. We have questions about the scriptures, and I think for one, I think the first thing is to know your scriptures very well, to know the intentions of the Lord in the scripture. I think that's the first thing, to know the intentions of the Lord in the scripture. First things first, because there are a lot of questions. Everybody has a reason for doing whatever they are doing. It's up to you to think the reason is stupid or not, but as far as they are doing it, it is valid unto them. You do not have a sway over their lives. Only the Lord does. Right? So the first things first, a very good understanding, and then you're talking to them, just having it. The next Sunday, I'm not telling you to come. The next thing is how I probably do certain things that I do. And as far as I can remember, I've always tried to be real with everybody. Yes, I've always tried to be real with anybody. I don't tell you that this is going to be like, no, bro. No. I mean, this thing, for example, a very good example would be that, what is a very good example? Would be that maybe when you catch somebody stealing or something, and then you start raining the fact that the Lord said you should not steal. The Lord did. He knows you should not steal.
Thank you very much. Like they know. They know.
Yeah. So I think if it's not like a caught thief or somebody that has been killing people to steal, somebody just random, they know, right? And the first thing is to say, hey, what's even the reason why you're even stealing in the first instance? And then just like Jesus did to that
woman who was caught in adultery.
Yeah, the woman was caught in adultery, and then the people were already structured to say, we caught you. We are going to deal with you today. And the Lord said, if you've not done remotely small to what she did, start stoning her. And so the castigators in themselves have the capacity to do more that they want to punish people for.
But they just haven't been caught.
They just haven't been caught.
Yeah.
And the point is, if the Lord plays our videos in 3D, who can withstand it?
Or more.
Who can withstand it, right? So, I mean, everybody has that essentials to themselves. And so that's the thing. First of all, I mean, the second thing is, I try to be myself. Just do this, do that. And then, if they want to come to, and of course, you pray for them. Because the Bible was saying in Yoruba, I can remember this in Yoruba because my mom quotes it day and day again. Okanba ati ijoye, owo Olorun lo wa. The heart of the king and the chiefs is in the hand of the Lord. So the Lord can do whatever he wills with it. So that's where the whole prayer comes in, right? You keep praying for them and you never know. And then, because, see, my job, when it comes to preaching to people or telling people of the Lord, is not to convince. The Bible says, how will they hear if they are not
No one
being
has been
preached
told
to.
to,
That's my
yeah.
job. Once you hear, I've passed the work to the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And then
You
my
do the
own
convincing.
is to be praying and all of that. I have never, even every time we go on outreach, I have never worked on having to argue with you to accept the Lord. He is the Lord. This is what he does. This is what he has done. This is my own life. If you have questions, we are going to answer. But it's never me saying,
You must be a Christian.
if you
must go
don't want to
church.
be a
You must.
Christian, you're going to rot in hell or something.
not.
Nah. That's always been, and I always say something. I heard it from a very wonderful preacher. I honestly didn't die for anybody. The Lord died. He died for me.
Yeah.
I'm a recipient of his grace through death. And that death is enough. The Lord is the most compassionate, because if he dies for us, he's the most compassionate. And he wants you to come to the kingdom more than I do.
Yeah.
So the best I'm doing is my own part of the deal. The other part of the deal, the necessary
Conviction.
the necessary person, or the necessary administration will be done. So that's just me. I do not pull you to church. I do not make, because come on, if I was, I wonder if I was of another religion, I wouldn't even hear you, bro. But what happens when the Lord decides to zoom his attention on me? At that point, every knee will bow.
Wow. Every tongue will confess.
Yeah.
That Jesus Christ is Lord.
Yeah. On the earth, in heaven, and even under the earth.
We've changed it to sermon.
You decided to don't bring me into this. I didn't come here to do any sermon thing.
We changed it to sermon, but yeah, that was actually profound. That was very profound, because I think one part that I really love was when you say that you would not try to bring them to church, and you would not try to, because sometimes, as much as we want to draw these people to God, I think sometimes we begin to sound very judgmental.
We become their enemies in the first place.
Yes, and then they don't listen.
Yeah.
And nobody becomes changed by criticism. Nobody becomes changed by criticism.
We all become changed by love.
Yeah. Such deep words.
Yes, I mean,
so much deep words.
That's why parents are advised to love their children even in pain. Right? So I beat you, but you should still know that I beat you because I love you. You might not be able to reconcile both now, but trust me, you reconcile it later.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking about love, how is the most purest form of showing your brother love, like your neighbor love?
Bro, it's by treating them. It's not by even giving them. Emotions are very strong.
Yeah.
Very, very strong. And it doesn't even have to do with very romantic relationships.
Yeah.
It is the other neighbor. Who would they say you are? Yes.
When you're not there.
Who would they say you are when you're not there? And for me, really, while I might not have very deep interactions with many people I live with, it is that whenever we have opportunities to meet, I do not leave you worse. I try as much as possible not to leave you worse. They say, hey, how you doing? You're fine, blah, blah, blah. Even though I know you're not telling me the truth that you're fine or you're not fine, at least at that point, I didn't do anything to move you from point 1 to 0. The best I can do is meet you where you are and leave you there.
Instead of making it worse.
And then if you are my friend, I always, all of them know, I'm even becoming the noisemaker. I'm always trying to seek out how you're much better. And then I become the noisemaker. I say, guy, please, how many books have you read this week? Bro, I've not even read in 2 months. Come and collect book in my house. On Sunday, did you go to church this Sunday? You did not go first Sunday of the year. How do you want God to visit you next Sunday? And, things like that. But again, it's just the way of wanting you to be better. And I think I've met more people like that too. I don't have so wide circle of friends, but I mean, look at what you wrote to me when you watched, and you cannot even imagine how many people texted me because of
Yeah.
that. That's what I would actually do. Maybe I would not post it on my status like people do because I'm very conservative. But I'm definitely going to reach out and say, hey, good job. Why don't you try video content? Yeah, but so just make people fine, make people good.
Yeah.
Don't try to bring them down at every opportunity to show yourself and all of that. And at that point, it's just to cap it with what the Bible said: be at peace with all men. Just be at peace with all men. You do not have to fight everybody. There are people that their relationship with you should not pass this place. There are people that you'd have to take in the room. There are people that you'd have to bring into your life. At the center of everything is that there are all of them. You have to love them. I usually talk about genuinely love people. Genuinely love people. It doesn't have to be that they are very close to you, but just genuinely love them. Really, that's like the least you can do, because everybody's having to battle one thing or the other.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not even the reason why you should genuinely love them. You should just love them because the love commands us to love everybody. And he was saying that if you do not love the neighbor that you can see, how much more loving somebody that you heard about that he died? You didn't see him.
Yeah.
So you're going to be an hypocrite. Say you love somebody that is in heaven. You've not been to heaven, bro. You've not been there. We all want to be there, but you've not been there. So I mean, love the other person first. Start the demonstration of love there first. So yeah.
Thank you so much. That was.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Pastor.
I'm not a pastor. I don't intend to become one. I don't intend.
After pastoring in church for having your fellowship.
The Lord has done that. So I don't think I'm not doing that again.
But yeah, though, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So the question that would have been in my mind was what we started the conversation with. So I have no other question for you.
What did we start the conversation with?
If you had only 1 minute to...
Oh yeah, that.
yeah. So to cap it up, tell us, if you had to say just one word, okay, one word is too small, 3-letter words to whoever, don't say just do it. If you're going to say 3-letter words to whoever is watching this as your final word, what would you say? 3.
Keep at it.
So guys, he said keep at it. Thank you very much for today's episode. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.